guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new IDontWorkHereLady content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled "Lady Thought I Was a Server at a Restaurant Because I Personally Knew the Manager." This happened about 8 years ago, but I'll never forgot this lady. My friend was a manager at this restaurant and my other friend was a server. Me and a few friends went to visit her and get some good food. We show up and while my friends are being directed to a table, I stopped to talk to my server friend. The uniforms were black pants and a white shirt. I just so happened to be wearing black yoga pants and a white shirt. Similar but not the same. I talked with my friend for about 2 minutes, then walked to the bathroom. I walked past a table and the woman was staring me down. I just ignored her and walked to the bathroom. And came out and the woman was waving at me. I awkwardly waved back. She responds with "Hello, can you come here?" I awkwardly look around and walk over. She proceeded to call me rude because I ignored her. It didn't hit me until then that she assumed I worked there. I laugh and before I can explain she demands for the manager. At this point she is pretty loud, so another server comes up and without explaining she demands for the manager. So the server goes to get him. He walks up. "Manager, what's the problem, ma'am?" "Lady, your server ignored me and gestured at me." Manager, "Who? Beth? She doesn't work here." "Lady, but you know her." Manager, "Yeah, but she doesn't work here." "Lady, then how do you know her?" She really didn't understand how he could know me but that I didn't work there. This went on and eventually she accepted it and dismissed us by saying I shouldn't be dressed like the servers. The next story is titled "Karen Punishes Herself at the Bakery." This takes place at a bakery where you basically serve yourself. You grab a tray and tongs, choose from the cases, then go to the counter to pay. There's a huge sign instructing you to serve yourself. It's not rocket science. This morning, I stopped by on the way to work to pick up some pastries to share with my coworkers. The bakery doesn't have the same things every day, so I was standing in front of a bakery case with my tray and my tongs, trying to decide what to buy. In walked a lady who was talking on her cell phone. I think my mistake was in acknowledging her and smiling. I should know better. She pointed toward the case with the fruit Danish and said, "I'll take a dozen of those." Just an assortment of flavors. And of course, before I could answer her back, she went back to her phone while wandering up to the register. So I figured if she didn't have time for me, I didn't have time for her. I walked to the case as far away from the Danish as I could get, chose an assortment of pastries for myself and then walked up to the counter to pay. At that point, the lady at the counter was sort of rolling her eyes because phone lady hadn't taken a breath or even acknowledged her. So I set my pastries down and she started to ring them up and bag them up for me. That's when phone lady finally pays attention, likely for the first time this year, and sees that there are no Danish on my tray. Her mouth dropped open to say something and then slammed shut just as quickly because I think she noticed the debit card in my hand. Then the strangest thing happened. She got even more interested in her phone call, sort of backed away from the counter and positioned herself so she was facing the corner of the room. Almost like she'd put herself in a timeout. It was super weird, so the cashier and I sort of gave one another what the hell looks. It's a Monday, so I'm not going to lie, I was really grateful it wasn't that bad an ordeal. And wouldn't it be nice if all Karens punished themselves in a similar manner? Imagine how peaceful the world would be. Just a bunch of Karens standing in corners. The next story is titled "Scaring Off an Entitled Idiot." First off, I have a terminal illness, so I'm dying. No commiserations, please. Because of that I decided not to suffer fools and idiots a while back. Probably cause I'm very angry about it. I would like to point out I haven't had a fight in over 26 years. So I'm in Bunnings, i.e. that is an Australian hardware chain. Think Walmart but only for hardware and gardening. I was looking for what I wanted and a woman with her husband demanded. It was the tone of her voice, where the brass hose fittings were. Without turning around I said I didn't know. She put her hand on my shoulder and tried to turn me around. I'm over 6 foot and around 15 stone and big with it so good on her for balls. So I turned around and she got up into my face and shouted things at me. If we both didn't have masks on, spittle would have been flying into my face. I said, "Duck off out of my face, you cobwebbed idiot, or I will take both of your ducking eyes out." She literally run backwards out of the aisle with her husband trying to keep her upright. I don't know what they did, but I walked to an exit, got back to my car and went home. The next story is entitled People Trespassed onto Our Property and Tried to Sue. So this was a while back and some of the details are a little foggy, but the main details I remember well. Now, I wasn't the most involved in the conflict either, but I still got pretty pissed. Cast. Me, EP, my mom, my oldest brother, and 2 of my dogs. Now, my dad is a lot into security, and we had clear signs that said no trespassing. So one day my oldest brother came back home from the military. He usually only gets to come around once a year and he got home with his big truck. Now, I live in a semi-rural area, so we have a lot of area and can let our dogs roam freely outside. With an invisible fence so they don't go over the boundaries. Anyway, my brother had to park, but our main driveway was filled, so he parked on the side of our driveway in the grass, which was still on our property. After being parked and a week later, he had to leave again, so he took his truck and left. But he left the yard a surprise. There were huge tire tracks that dug into the mud, making the yard look kinda messy. Even though it was on our property, our neighbor, the EP, stormed over, and was going to complain about how the tire tracks were on her side of the yard. Surprise, surprise. They didn't. When she was storming over, our dogs were outside, and one of them bit her. We didn't know this until after the whole thing went down. But she actually was kicking at our dogs. Anyway, she got bit in the ankle. It wasn't even severely injured or broken, and she started banging on our door. My mom was the one who got to the door, and she had to deal with her and her BS she was saying. Sadly, I don't know what she said, but from what my mom said at the time. Anyway, the story starts getting more foggy from here, but from what I remember, the EP tried to sue for $25,000, and tried to get the dog taken from us. At the end of the day, she lost. She didn't get anything, and our dog didn't get taken. The next story is titled I Don't Work Here. And neither does my dog. Here's a story with a difference that I always find funny to think of, but it needs a bit of an introduction. I used to volunteer for an organization that trains service dogs for people with a physical disability. For example, the dogs can help people in a wheelchair by fetching objects and opening doors. I was a puppy raiser, which meant I looked after a dog from when it was a puppy up until it was old enough to undergo its full training. A big part of the puppy raiser role involves taking your dog everywhere you go. You take it to work, you take it in cars, on buses, on planes. You take it shopping, you take it to restaurants, cinemas, bars, and libraries. You basically attempt to socialize your dog as much as possible, so that when it becomes a service animal, it won't get freaked out by people, places, cats, horses, elevators, hats, cameras, or anything else out of the ordinary. It also has to learn not to take a dump on the floor at Home Depot, which we had to learn the hard way, and for which I apologize to all concerned. Anyway, the other part of puppy raising is simple obedience training, with commands like sit, stay, heel, leave it, lay down, shake a paw, kennel, etc. Because the dog is intended for someone with a physical disability, you can't teach it with a tug of the lead. You have to give a voice command and it has to be said firmly. When you tell the dog to sit, you have to put a tone of authority in your voice and say it as if you really mean it. So to the story. One day I stop at a supermarket on the way home from work. I'm wandering the aisles with the dog, who's wearing a high-visibility doggy vest. I can see why they don't let animals into a food store, apart from the hygiene issues, because I can tell the smells are driving him wild. But he bravely holds his ground as he should, and all is well until we reach the chilled food cabinets. I hear a snuffling noise and look down to see my dog with his nose pushed into the packets of bacon, evidently enjoying the glorious smell. Without pausing, in a loud but deep voice, I issue the command for him to stop, leave it. As I do that, out of the corner of my eye, I spot a lady freeze in the act of taking a pot of yogurt from the shelf. She slowly turns her head in my direction. I'm standing there with a dog in a high-visibility vest and I can only assume she thinks I'm a security guard for the store or something. She stands motionless for a second. And then, to my amazement, carefully places the yogurt back on the shelf and squeaks out "I'm sorry" as she slowly backs away. I was a bit stunned myself, but then I blurted out, "It's okay. I don't work here. I was just talking to my dog," and I could see the relief pouring off her. But for a moment I was afraid I was going to get a pot of yogurt thrown at me, as I'm sure some of the crazy people who get mentioned here might have done. The next story is titled They Let You Eat Out Here? I work at a chain restaurant in southern Minnesota. I live half an hour away from the restaurant, so sometimes when I am scheduled for a double, I kill time in town between shifts instead of driving all the way home. There aren't many places to hang out, so I often end up eating very slowly at a McDonald's down the road while staring wistfully out the window evaluating my life. The uniform I wear at the restaurant, all black, is similar to the uniform McDonald's employees wear, minus the red collar and golden M on the chest. Today I was enjoying some chicken nuggets when I noticed an older woman glaring at me a couple booths away. I thought it was weird, but went about my business eating. Suddenly, she approached me and sneered with disdain, "They let you eat out here with actual customers?" At first, I had no idea what she was talking about, so I just sort of stared at her in shock. Then she added, "Why don't you go eat in the back?" Finally, it dawned on me that she thought I worked at McDonald's, so I said with an awkward laugh that I actually work at the restaurant down the street, and sort of gestured in the direction of the restaurant. I thought the matter was settled, but I was very wrong. "Well, you still shouldn't be eating out here then. It's unprofessional." She practically spat at me and stalked off. I just sat there in silence and am still sort of in shock about it. I mean, what the hell was that? The next story is titled "Called a Creep" because I don't work at the school I work at. So I work as an IT consultant under a long-term contract for a school, thus making me not an employee. I've been working at this school for many months now, so all the staff and a few parents know me. None of the regularly employed staff require uniforms or have any identification except being on the website staff list, which I am not a part of. Tuesday of this week I'm walking back onto school grounds after getting some food a good hour after school got out when one of the parents I saw earlier beelines towards me from the parking lot. Me equals me, RP equals parent, B equals awesome office person. RP. I've seen you around here creeping on the kids. You need to go away before I report you to the staff and the police. I'm caught really off guard because I almost never interact with parents except through email or the occasional one chatting with other staff. Me. Sorry, I actually work here. I'm an RP. I've looked at the website list and you aren't anywhere on there. I've even spoken to other parents and they're concerned for their kids' safety. You need to leave right now before I call the police. Me. Look, we can go into the office and talk to A, B, or possibly C if she is still in. RP. Yeah, then they can call the police themselves and you won't be able to run. Okay? Don't follow the logic train with that one. Regardless, we walk over and into the office. Luckily someone is still working the front office. The lady is about to speak but I immediately chime in and say. Me. Hey B, can you please verify that I work here as IT support? B. Really confused says. Yes, he works here? He's been here for a couple of months now. RP. Then why isn't he on the website? And why doesn't he have a badge? B. Well, we didn't feel like a badge was necessary as everyone here knows him and he was introduced at the school assembly. RP. Then send out an email to all the parents because many of us have been concerned. B. Do you actually think we would just let some random guy walk onto our campus like that? You're fine, Me, you can go. I left while they were still talking because I had a lot of work to do. I can see where much of the confusion was and I'm not offended, but considering there are dozens of parents and staff unmarked on campus a day. Also the fact that no person is initially allowed on campus without first verifying their identity at least once. Me showing up many times should have been a hint. The next story is titled "I Quit Over a Month Ago." Please stop texting me. The first summer out of high school I got a job at the only place that was hiring near me, Dunkin' Donuts. It wasn't a bad job, I actually quite liked it and was getting paid enough, at least, 18-year-old me thought that. I had been there about 6 months when I approached my manager asking for some days off for a family vacation. I was greeted with a "Oh, that won't be a problem. The company is actually selling this store the day before then, so you actually won't have a job anymore." Both great news and not great news at the same time. About a month goes by and I a day away from my vacation, and go in for my last shift, which is also the last day the store should be there. As I walk in the door cherry for my vacation, my manager lets me know I'm scheduled for every single day I'd be in vacation. "No, there must be some mix-up. The store is closing and I asked you for those days off," I said over and over. To which she wasn't having it. So I quit. Straight up took off my apron, put it on her desk and told her I was quitting. I thought that would be the end of it. On my too long of a drive to where I was going on vacation, I was bombarded with calls from both my manager and the district manager, letting me know I was late for my shift, and in trouble. I let them all go to voicemail. A few days goes by and I stopped receiving calls. That seemed to be the end of it. About a month later I get a text from an old coworker, whose number had since been deleted from my phone. The conversation went, "Coworker. Hey, do you think you can cover my shift on X day at X time?" Me. Sorry, I don't work at that store anymore and actually have a new job that I'll be at that day. Sorry. Good luck finding someone else to cover you. C. Oh, about a week goes by and they text me again. C. Hey, don't forget you're covering my shift tonight. Me. Like I already told you, I don't work there anymore and won't be covering your shift. C. You never said that, you lying poss. You better come cover my shift. I don't give a heck if you don't work here anymore, you said you'd cover it. And a slew of other rude and very angry texts. I blocked her number and carried on like nothing had happened, and last I heard, that store had long been torn down. Good riddance. The next story is titled I'm Just a Student Karen. I was cleaning some kiln shelves off in the ceramics studio during open lab hours. A student and her mother came into the kiln yard and I overheard the student say, "Oh, my pieces didn't get fired." Not my business, I'm just a student and I'm wrapping up my last personal firing of the semester. A few seconds later there is an aggressive, almost painful, tapping on my shoulder. Why didn't her work get fired? It was supposed to be ready to take home today. Student. Mom, that's not my teacher. This goes unheard or ignored by the mother. Me. Sorry, I'm just a student here. I don't fire others' work. Mom. We need her work done by Friday. She's graduating and we're leaving the state. You're so selfish for not putting her stuff in that kiln. I saw how much room you have in there. Student. Looking absolutely mortified behind mom. Me. Explains that I was firing porcelain and that her daughter's work was low fire clay and would have melted in the kiln. Also state that I'm not allowed to fire other students' pieces unless given the go-ahead by my professor. Mom. That is unacceptable. Get off your fat ass and fire her work. I paid $1,500, bullcrap by the way, for this class and she's going to take home everything she made. Me. Goes back in the studio. Mom. Following me into the upper division area, which is off limits to most people. Get back here. I ignore her, just trying to wrap up a couple bowls so one can put them in my bag. She then notices all the work in the advanced space and starts touching it. Mom. Why aren't the intro classes given projects like this? For how much the course is, the content should be better. Student. Mom, we need to learn the basics first, also ignored. I'm now blocked from exiting the space by a very angry woman who's got her hand on a sculpture my classmate has been working on all semester. She keeps telling me I'm lazy and that firing takes no effort because the kilns are self-regulating. Our kilns are gas and need constant monitoring over several hours. Finally, my saving grace arrives. Our shop manager, who's kind of an a-hole with a short fuse, but who I appreciate deeply for all he does, appears behind her. I can see the student pale a little bit knowing what's coming. Lab manager. What the duck are you doing in the advanced space? Mom starts going off again. My lab manager looks calmly at me and tells me I can go. He clears the way and I take my chance. And just as I am leaving the studio, I hear him start yelling. Justice at last, but my God. The next story is titled Why Does Your Employee Dress Like a Slut? This story happened when I was still in high school. I was shopping at a clothing store I go to very often. Usually the stores are structured so that they have the women's, men's, and kids' clothes in sections connected by small walkways, but each section is its own separate room. It's really not hard to navigate because there are clear signs everywhere. I like to wander through all the sections, because I often find clothes that will fit me. On this particular day I went after school on a Friday. My school has a uniform that consists of a white or blue polo with a plaid skirt, and is widely recognizable in the area. The skirt was mid-thigh length on me, due to my height. While it wasn't exactly knee-length, I wouldn't call it short either as I could safely bend down. I had an armful of clothes that I was going to try on later, and I accidentally knocked some clothes off a rack with a hanger that was sticking out. The decent human thing to do would be to pick up what you dropped, right? Well, I bent down to pick it up when I hear someone huff and storm up behind me. I thought they were angry I was in the way, so I apologized to her and walked off. She wasn't a Karen, she was older lady. She was Karen's mom. I'm going to call her Glenda. Suddenly, Glenda grabs my shoulder and jerks me backwards, making me drop my armful of clothes. Glenda. Why were you ignoring me? I've been following you for 8 minutes now. You didn't even acknowledge me. Me. Why did you touch me? Do I know you? Glenda. You ducking kids. I do not need to introduce myself to you to get your help. Me, still oblivious but annoyed. I am sorry. What do you need my help for? Glenda. Are you dumb? Are you useless? Why did they hire you? I want to know where the hell blah blah is and I can't find it because of your confusing store layout. Me. I don't work here. You can follow the signs. Glenda. Liar. You kids are so lazy. I can see you work here, you have the collared shirt on. At this point I just turned around to walk away. I could hear her screaming after me about managers and how I am incompetent, but I just wanted to get out of her near vicinity as soon as possible. Unfortunately, my plans of escaping were foiled as I needed to pick up my clothes that dear Glenda threw on the ground for no reason. As soon as I bent down, Glenda screams, "Don't do that again, you slut, don't bend down in your little skank skirt. They should fire you for how you dress alone." Unfortunately, this isn't a satisfying story where I pressed charges and got Glenda put away for assault. I was 14 and dumb and hated confrontation, so escaping from her was the best I could do. I picked up my clothes and put them away on the fitting room rack and left because I didn't feel like trying anything on anymore. On my way out, I saw Glenda yelling at someone who I presume is the manager and pointing in my general direction. I waved and walked right out. Best believe I'd be much more vindictive if it happened today. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.